Ziad Banyamin, Solutions Architect, JLL. We have Vanessa Lebutz, Founder and CEO of District Technologies. We have Christian Glan. Christian, your title, Chief AV Specialist, Practice Lead, COWI. We have Daniel Schroeder, Vice President, Global Head of Smart Space, Siemens Building Technologies. And we have Robert Rosier, CEO of TPX International. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm going to start on my left, and we can work our way down. Ziad, tell us a little bit about your background, what smart building means to you, et cetera.
So, hi everyone. Ziad Banyamin here. I'm from JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, an American-based company. We have arms in Asia-Pac, EMEA, Middle East. Smart building is a great topic to start off with here. Where do we start? To me, smart building is all about integrating sensor types, solutions into a building to making it more smarter, to enable us to understand the behavior of the people within the building, to enable us to understand how these systems within your buildings are working, and therefore we are able to drive efficiency, productivity of our employees, the energy efficiency of the building. So there's a lot of trends that smart building cover at JLL. We value smart building basically on 3 pillars, which is all about your energy efficiency and saving, workplace environment, and the productivity of the people. So our aim is really focused on how people behave in the building and to drive their productivity, to increase their productivity. Yeah.
Thank you. Vanessa?
Hi everyone, my name's, is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Butz. I'm the CEO and founder of District Technologies. We're a tech company. We're a digital layer that we can put on top of existing smart buildings or non-smart buildings at all, as the sort of traditional industry sense. And from our perspective, I will always bring the user experience and community perspective. That's what we started with. So we started the company around community features, so basically doing what Google has done for offices, for their employees, or what WeWork has done for landlords, focusing on the customers, the people in the building. And we work with real estate funds like Blackstone, their first client, property managers like Cushman and Wakefield, and also companies like WPP directly to help them connect spaces, services, and people in their very own custom experience platform. So we can talk more about that means, but essentially for us being in the sort of more modern digital sense, or as a startup, we believe in scaling fast because the buildings all around the world should have already had this tech in them 5 years ago. But tech to focus on the user experience and the individual person, not just throwing hardware into building to make it smarter. So that's sort of what I'll always put my stamp on, and we're very passionate about making people's lives in their work and also in their personal life easier. So it's all about removing friction and making a seamless experience.
Thank you, Vanessa. Christian?
Yeah. My name is Christian Glan. I work with COVI, which is an engineering and consulting group based in the Nordics, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. Smart buildings means different things to different people. And as a group, one of the main purposes is to define that first to each and every customer. What is the purpose of the smart building for you? What is the business goals you want to obtain? And to me specifically, it's the productivity side. So already today, a lot of use cases has been mentioned, energy efficiency, security. There is a third leg, productivity. To some extent, it has to do with comfort also, but it also has to do with how does spaces and rooms react to the people working in it? How does the building serve a business purpose, so to say? I think that to the knowledge-producing company today, spaces are just as important as the production line is to a manufacturing company. So you need to optimize the way building actually react to talent working in it. So to me, as a person, that's the main focus. To COVI as a company, it's fitting that together with energy efficiency, security, and getting a whole out of it.
Thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, my name is Daniel Schröder. I'm actually, as mentioned, the head of Smart Space for Siemens Building Technologies. And I just actually joined recently, a bit over 2 years ago, from working over 16 years in consumer industries and personal care and others. And you wonder, why did I join Siemens, what is one of the largest solution providers of buildings? Because for us it was very essential to go on that journey, actually, of building energy efficient, automated buildings, but truly actually integrating into the business processes of our customers. And the business processes we fairly well understood in factories, but we very little actually understood in terms of real people being in a building. So what we said is that major journey for us to actually get to a smart building, and that important part in the middle are actually the people. And that's why I joined Siemens, because it's very important that you bring in somebody that understands that people aspect. Now that is why we also did some acquisitions, because we said a combination of B2C, business to consumer, and B2B is very essential. And I believe in the future, and that's what smart space for Siemens means, or smart buildings means for Siemens, we start with the user, right? We start really with the person with a use case. We start with an interface, a platform. We go beyond a building and integrate it actually into a wider district, as Vanessa probably would call it, right? Into the neighborhood. And actually believe that it's very important that we look at providing a place that creates an interface for human interaction. And that basically means that you help people to find at the right moment in time, the right space to do their work. And at the end, that will end up in much more productive, but much more enjoyable and fun places. Now, that's what we are working on. And looking forward to that conversation, defining that here with you together. A very exciting journey.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Rosier from TPEX. We are focusing much more on the operations of smart buildings. So that's the integration of a lot of things like CCTV cameras, Wi-Fi, that makes the building not only available for users, because large buildings nowadays, they should have maximum availability of networks, so, but also sustainability. If we consider that we have 8.5 million buildings only over here in the Netherlands, and if you consider the sustainability of those buildings in the next coming years, we should all comply to strict sustainability rules, and that is only possible by creating smart buildings. So we are not so focused on smart homes, but much more on the operations and the control of large business environments. We see buildings, in fact, as a business platform, and that should be run in a very strict way with a lot of SLAs in order to provide the user what they need.
Thank you very much. Well, as you can see, a very complex, multifaceted concept, this smart building. One that's certainly been around for quite some time. It's been a journey, I think, that companies are trying to realize. There's a technical aspect, there's an end user aspect, a sustainability aspect. One of the things we were talking a lot about in our conversations leading up to this is where we are and what's next. What are the remaining challenges to kind of get us to this ultimate vision? We'll make this now the more interactive portion where we can kind of jump in and comment as we go. Promise to you guys, we'll leave some time at the end. We're planning about 15 minutes for your questions, so please make note of things that you hear along the way, and you'll be given a chance to ask. So let's talk about that aspect of the challenges and what we face now and kind of realizing this vision ultimately. Feel free to jump in, anyone who wants to comment on that.
Okay. I guess I'll start first. I mean, as we all know, smart building is moving to an incredible speed, okay? And with the day and age of working with the advancements of web-based applications and mobile applications, from a CRE point of view, our employees, our clients are wondering, how could I manage my space in a more efficient way? So this is one of the challenges we have. So we're thinking of how do we manage space smarter. So we're deploying a lot of occupancy sensors, for example, in a way that actually predict the use of space for our clients. and therefore driving efficiency from that perspective. So one of the challenges I share is all about space management for our clients. Yeah.
On the Siemens side, is there a technical challenge that you guys see as well? So sensors, clearly something that we're hearing a lot about, rolling down even to the individual level through Fitbits and other individual sensors. Is there something that you guys see as a technical hurdle that needs to be overcome at this point?
I think it's very important where we are coming from, right? So I think what I mentioned before, I think we've actually finalized the design more or less of energy and sustainable, efficient buildings. I think our industry is pretty well able to do that today, despite the fact it's not rolled out. Now, but that's a very traditional, as we call it, OT world, operational technologies. Now, if you move into the next level where you want to integrate IoT sensors or different other information sources, I think the major challenge what I see today at our customers that actually the OT world, operational building technologies, together with the IT world, with HR actually, because that's the business process that you provide for your customer needs to come together. So I think the biggest challenge, I think from that perspective is not technical, it's at our customer side to be able to provide that view, to be willing to integrate IT and OT technologies. From a technical side then comes that I believe the cloud is the biggest enabler today. And I think the adoption of cloud, I mean, especially in multinational companies, is going through the roof. Now, if we go into our traditional OT partners, they don't yet understand what it means, right? And I think the basic understanding of what cloud means, that not all data needs to be stored in one big data lake, that Azure and AWS are compatible to each other, the different systems work together, that whether you are from Osram or Signify, whether you are from Siemens or from VergeSense, yes, you need to be compatible in terms of, or let's say you are compatible actually once you integrate the data into the cloud. And I think that's why I believe it's more a matter of education than of today's technologies. So I see that biggest challenge in that one, coming back to bringing the right people together, having the right understanding. I think we are lagging behind as building technologies currently of what is possible through cloud integration.
And maybe to add to that, I think cost is still a big factor. So yes, we have many examples of buildings that have spent millions on integrating everything as a one-off use case. But that's kind of, from my company's perspective, we're trying to bring as much benefit to as many square foot globally as possible. That's not scalable. If I need a year to integrate a building, that's not scalable. We can launch our software only in a day. So can we integrate backwards with smart building tech in a much more scalable way with open APIs and sort of lobby the big tech companies to be more open, but also work with startup sort of integration factors. So something we're very excited about that we're launching at MIPIM in the next few months officially. So if you're there, do come see my talk. A smart building marketplace. So our tech, even though it's purely software, we have access control integrations, we have light integrations, we have lift integration and sensors, but unless we can create a very, very scalable, very, very cost-effective way of putting that into any Class A premium building, which it should be, like this is something that I strongly believe, like why isn't it a standard across all buildings yet? To create the user experience, but also the energy and the security benefits. So you have two benefits. You have the back management, operations of the building, and you have the consumer experience of the building. And both of those need to be combined with integrated technologies that are scalable. And I think that's the next 2 to 4 years, we'll see a big difference in approaching this as a standard, creating data standards across different verticals in buildings and outside of buildings, including the public realm. And really showing, like the best developers in the world are showing that this is possible today, and we know that. But can we make it a standard of the future? Because we're a long way to go in terms of sustainability goals in general, and in terms of productivity and happiness in buildings. I walk into so many buildings where I'm like, wow, how do people work here? I would die. And yes, I'm very privileged to be in a great office. I get to choose my own office because my company, but at the end of the day, we see this as the future, and I think London, New York, San Francisco are leading. but the rest, any building in the world should have a productive, happy experience for the people working there, because it will affect your bottom line. It's not just about, fluffy, nice to haves, events, we have shared spaces and events. It's actually must have productivity. Let's increase the asset value and let's increase the bottom line of the companies working there. And it's real life examples are there today. I think a lot of clients, or sometimes at conferences, we speak about big data, AI, blockchain, like it's something crazy out there in the future. It's not. We have done buildings, and there are many examples where it's working today. And I think the rest of the industry needs to follow very, very quickly. So if you're not doing it, you should be already.
I think standards is one of the things. Seeing things from an engineering company side, it's still technologies that are very siloed. So you still have to put a lot of effort into integrating stuff. So if you want a truly smart building, you need to pull data from across various disciplines and technologies. And that is still requiring a lot of work. It's not easily done to get this flow. And more often than not, still, you end up with an architect pulling out his hair because he has more sensors in his ceiling that he wants to have, because everyone is putting up their own. So I think that's still, although a lot has been done, one of the main challenges, getting that to work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm curious, Zad, you may be able to address this as well, is how, when you're dealing with companies, so Vanessa brings up an interesting point of a standard of vision needed and how you approach this. And I'm wondering, when you're tackling projects, when you're working with businesses, is it this more incremental approach, or is there a grand vision that they have to say, here's where we want to get to? You would think that would be the ideal goal, is to have some sort of vision. But I'm wondering how much that is a reality, or if it is really more piecemeal approaches to the problem.
Yeah, maybe I can comment on that. I'm normally involved in the early stage of building a large complex, and what we see is that if you look to the standard set of requirements of a building, you see things like coax cabling and things that are still part of the design of buildings. But when a building is designed, they don't think normally about user experience in the end. So all along the way, as a technical architect, I'm quite involved in the discussion about what should we build, how should we operate it, and what will be the user experience in the end. And there is a huge gap between the knowledge of the construction companies in the beginning and the operating companies and the users in the end, which you can try to manage along the way, but there is quite a challenge in that process.
And maybe I'd like to add, the whole industry is going through a mind shift change in the way we need to be thinking about user experience of buildings, because in the past, and this still happens today, unfortunately, the majority of buildings are built with 100 consultants that take 3 years, that last 30 years. And so you're used to making decisions that take you 3 years to make that last 30 years. And that's a very different way of thinking about things than in 2-week sprints. Like my tech team works in 2-week sprints. Every 2 weeks we push a new update. And our update can change the experience of a building if our clients so choose. You can say, okay, we want this new feature or not, every 2 weeks. And so we have to go away from thinking in brick and mortar the way that we build assets and we don't touch them for another 10 or 20 or 50 years. We need to think of a building as an iPhone. I can update through a software update the building experiences of people. And that's what we're trying to get to as an industry. That's my personal opinion. And that will improve the way people are using cities in the future, step by step. And then if you work in terms of big projects, like construction, development things at the very beginning, just keep it as open as possible. Because if we build, like if my scope with a client is to build, they really want to have X. So we look at X and we say, okay, theoretically we could spend 3 months building X, but in 3 months you'll want something else because the market has already changed. So let's launch with what we have now, test it, iterate it, get the data, get the feedback, get used to working iteratively in a more sort of entrepreneurial methodology, and then work with us to elaborate on top of the scope. And it will change because you're for the first time listening to your users, which are the people in the building, through real-time data, not through architecture's experience or consultants who say, this is what we think because of surveys. No, actually ask the people who you're trying to affect. So I think that's a mentality mindshift change that the whole industry is going through. And what I always say, and what I'm really passionate about, is tech is only an enabler. So tech is not the end goal. You need to go through an operational change in the way you see your business, the way you see your customers, and then you take that user experience of what you're trying to achieve and take the pain points and create tech that remove the pain points along the way. Not the other way around. Oh, I want this fancy new tech because of what? It looks great for my PR and marketing reasons. No, let's actually try and solve people's problems and what we're doing day to day. And I think that's just a way of thinking about it.
Maybe if I can build on what you're saying, Vanessa, I fully agree with you. I think very important is also that unified experience across different buildings, because you don't want to have a different experience when you come into a different office. I mean, if you take a large company today, then yes, they build a headquarters, and they maybe build a smart building that's built by one software that doesn't get updated, it doesn't get continuously delivered, as Vanessa was mentioning, and what you're used to from a consumer experience, right? Probably nobody actually remembers when the last big update of Facebook was, but they get continuously delivered, and actually you have a continuous update every week or every month, right? So that continuous delivery of actually taking the pain points away. But what I wanted to iterate quickly on one point that you were mentioning, I think on the infrastructure, and we actually use a headline for that one, and that is based on what is changing in our industry, because if you look at London last year, then the average lifetime of rental contracts went down to 3.7 years from 7-8 years ago of over 10. So basically what is happening that for the industry, we call it actually flexibility of real estate is the new sustainability, right? What was sustainability 10 years ago is flexibility. And I think what is a sustainable building? What is a people-centric building that actually adapts to the needs of the users? So I think from a sheer infrastructure, OT, operational technology, what do I need to put into my building? I think one point Vanessa mentioned, I think, is openness of standards so that you can cloud connect it. But the second thing is that you just simply design it for maximum flexibility. So if you look in your HVAC, your lighting systems, and your whatever shading, very simple things like this, put it into small cells, integrate it in one controller, don't have 3 different systems, actually put the works together in the beginning, a very fundamental thing. So remember, from my understanding, flexibility is the new sustainability, because that is the enabler, actually, for at the end goal of creating a much more productive and people-centric experience.
Yeah, I think that's key. And then let me just add to what Daniel said, because if you're building buildings for flexibility, the next immediate step is you need a digital layer to manage that. So.
We talked about a key ingredient being data. How far are we along that path? Or how close are we actually realizing the ability of companies to harness the data they have? Because that's certainly a key aspect of smart building, fundamentally, is being able to have access to that raw material as you go along, to understand how is the space being utilized, are end users actually happy, and is the building providing value, is it enriching their experience? In your experiences, how are we on that path? Is that something that's real today, or is there still a lot of work to be done in order to take advantage of the data that exists?
I mean, data analytics is a key driver in smart solutions. We use our business intelligence team. You have a great tool, and a data analytics tool that captures the likes of your occupancy sensors, to the likes of wayfinding where people are, to activating, your air handling units based on your occupiers and their positioning. And so all that data collates and integrating our different systems together to create that better experience for our people. So yeah, data analytics is a great driver in smart solutions. Do you agree?
I agree. I think we're a long way from where we need to be. So I think it's very, very rudimental what the industry is doing right now with data. And even collecting data is a long way away. Like some people are collecting a lot and some people are collecting none. But even people that are collecting a lot, the question for me is what are they doing with it? And I haven't seen any good examples of, well, except for my examples of community experience. So we are using data to, in real time, tell our clients what works and what doesn't work so they can exchange and improve their services and their events and the way they manage their shared spaces. So that's sort of real-time feedback to using data. But I've not, like what we're working on, and this is why I haven't seen a good example of it yet, is one dashboard that shows you everything, but in real time affecting the user experience. So I think a lot of people have a lot of data. The question is, what do we do with it? And how can we maybe connect it on a macro level? Because I think the whole smart building play, once everything is connected, will become a city play and then a government question. So that data is going to become super important for how do we build better cities in the future, and I think we're a long way away.
Is the problem there a tools problem? So is it not having the right tools to be able to analyze, access?
I think it's a collaboration problem. I think
Okay.
real estate, the industry is very closed off, so asset owners don't want to share data, and that's going to change. It's changing slowly and will change more.
But what I also see in that sense, I think, yes, there is data existing, but people don't think of the data and which kind of use case they want to do it. So if I start from, yes, there is data in the cloud available, a lot of customers said, yes, I want to have a data lake, I want to have all data. What is very important is where you're coming from a use case. And we acquired half a year ago one company in the US that is Comfy, and I can just give you two very quick examples. What basically they do, they have one of the best integration into the building platform, but they choose exactly the data they want. They tag only that data. They build a user profile that actually understands your temperature preferences, basically, and then either on the room or on you as a person, they remember it, they continuously adjust it based on your outside temperature. And now what actually happens over time, you need to use less the application to give input, because it took it into account that there were 20 people already complaining on a Monday morning if the sun is coming there, that it is actually too warm. So basically the room is already cooled and it just takes that into account over time. So a very good example of actually machine learning, of personal preferences taken into account and a more comfortable environment. The second part I think that is very important, I think that our industry talks about, is presence detection. And I can't hear that sentence anymore. I love it, I want to do Wi-Fi correlated data. I look at how I know that my building is 40, 50% utilized. I know that my spaces and my desks are only 30% utilized, and then I ask the question, I said, great, so what? Right? Because basically the next step is important. And I think, for example, one of our companies is now providing that, and they've just recently started on big open office spaces. You as a person are not normally having one task throughout the whole day. Maybe software developers do have it, they can sit on one place. But if you look at a typical marketing or salesperson, then you have different tasks throughout the day. Maybe a creative session, maybe one where you need to build a strategy presentation for your boss to present it somewhere, or you need to be collaborative with your colleagues. We have different tasks. So you actually want to use different places in the building. So how can you make them bookable? How do you integrate from your presence detection to your calendar with your colleague, being able to exchange rooms based on capacity? Very simple things. But we often don't start actually with the use case in mind. The so what? Yes, I have the data, but now how do I change the experience? Because that ultimately then for me drives productivity, but also big sustainability. Because what you see is actually now you're able to have 2 or 3 times more people working in a building because you're able to manage where and how they work. Right? And I think that is just at the verge of happening, and that doesn't need that complicated integration. That needs a very use-based, good thinking of which information do I need to tag at which moment, correlate it in the cloud, and then actually make it happen. But we are just at that verge, and that is happening today. Right? But a lot of our customers, they think of the ultimate building that is 10 years away from it, and that will never happen if you address it that way.
Moving target. Yes.
But this really also.
Yeah, I think we haven't even started yet with the data part, because if you have a fully integrated building system, like Siemens, but only nowadays with the building, only less than 5% of building owners choose for an integrated system. So you're stuck to all kinds of devices of all kind of vendors, cameras, sensors, and that means that if you try to operate and try to collect the data and try to do something with that, you are with all kind of individual technology platforms. And that is, at this moment, 95% of the market. So if you want to collect data, if you want to do something with the data, you should first have it on a common level, integrated level, and before you have solved the integration challenge, that's in most cases is quite difficult.
Yeah, it goes just to that point that you really need to have the overarching business case first. What is it you want to do with the building? What kind of data do you want to collect? Because else it will just be data that you actually have, but you don't know what you want to use it for. So really, the use cases are the overarching thing. And then deliberately saying, I want to collect these data sets, because between them, then I can put up my KPIs and steer towards that. And these data sets may come from different vendors across different technology platforms. So you need to have the strategy of who's responsible for driving these data sets, how do we collect them into a common platform, how do we then use them for artificial intelligence and feed them back into the various different platforms. Because very seldom you will have one platform. You will have to make that feedback loop as well. But you need to be deliberate about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you brought up AI, which is something I wanted to talk about a little bit as well. But the problem that I'm hearing that needing to be solved, this collaboration, this vision, that sort of thing, it makes me wonder, is AI really the solution for that? Because ultimately AI is helping us get through and find the patterns in the information to then drive out insight and analysis. So how much is AI actually playing a role today? Is that actually a factor, or is really the problem very different than that? It's not so much crunching the information. AI can help us with that, but is it, how are you seeing AI kind of rolling out and playing a part in bringing this about? Is it actually enabling something more than, or is the problems really more intrinsic than that? Collaborative, vision, that kind of thing. What do you think? Where are we with AI?
I think the silence says a lot. That is, it's more a benefit than can come. But just as we were speaking about the data sets, that's really where we are.
Yeah.
You know, making the data sets first and being deliberate about that. And once you have that in front of you, what do I need? Then you can speak about how can I apply artificial intelligence to that and feed back into the system. But if you haven't gotten the collection right to begin with, then it's really hard to work in the second.
Yeah, interesting.
And I guess AI and machine learning goes hand in hand. So
Right.
if you want to talk about AI, then you have to talk about machine learning. How can we actually capture that data and predict using predictive analytics tools? And that's where AI and machine learning go hand in hand. So we're working on a project with one of our clients, and we're using an analytical platform, and we're seeing some really interesting results, and going from that planned maintenance to that predictive maintenance region, and doing a great saving on our clients' FM side. So we're using a bit of machine learning and a bit of artificial intelligence. It's in that work in progress.
Yeah, I think AI in most cases is only on the PowerPoint presentation deck right now, and because to give you a simple example, if you in a building, if you have in the middle of the night in the central hall, you see a lot of people coming together, you hear sound, and you see on the camera, you see movement, which should not be there. Only that. In order to create a correlated item that goes to a service desk or whatever is already very complex. And in terms of using AI, you should have data from each of the silos, bringing it up to a certain level where you can correlate the information. And right now we are only in the phase of, first of all, collecting data. After that is unified data in order to to bring it on the same level. And after that, you can help, or AI technology can help if you are on the same database. But that is a challenge in itself. And in my opinion, we are not there yet. We are right now in the integration challenge of data from camera, from usage, up to the point that you can talk about behavior, about experience and things like that. So I think it's the way to go, but I think there is still a huge challenge to come there and to really get the use of AI technology in smart buildings.
Yeah, it's sounding, it's a classic discussion within this whole big data, IoT kind of conversation is the very, very real challenge of actually getting your data to work together, integrating it together. That's very, very real. So we have this vision of some big data kind of solving all of our problems with AI on top, but there's a reality aspect. One more question that I have before we open it up to the broad audience. We can't talk about data without talking about privacy. GDPR, we live in that world now. We're all working diligently to make sure we're conforming to that. So I'm wondering how privacy factors in. Is that a limiter? Is it a challenge? Are you hearing that across solution areas? What's your perspective on this aspect of the smart building? Since at the fundamental, we are talking about tracking individuals and their space, and there can be personally identifiable information in that sometimes. So just curious on your perspectives on where we are with that.
It's a really good question, GDPR. I mean, like, generally people at the moment, you know, they put their own personal information on, like, the likes of Facebook and all that. So in a way, you know, you are sharing your personal details with your colleagues. But now let's take it a step and say, can you share a bit of your details, not your full personal details, to give you that better experience in the workplace? So if you're willing to share a bit of your information at the price of having a better comfort zone in your workplace, feeling at home kind of zone, then I think it's a trade-off, right? I mean, some.
I don't think it's so maybe just jumping in here. For me, GDPR is a great thing because it puts the choice back to the users.
Yeah.
GDPR is not about whether they share information or not. It's about that you as a company are giving the users the choice.
Yeah.
You're not automatically collecting things they're
You're
not
opting,
sharing.
yeah.
So as long as you opt in,
Yeah.
and when you sign, tick the box, oh, I opt in, I tick these terms and conditions, it's just an extra step. So something we've built, like District has built from day one, in your profile, we believe in opting in for everything. And that's the opposite of WeWork's app, because we work with traditional assets where you may have a CEO of a hedge fund or a law firm, and they want to use the app to get in and out of the building and change their, say, temperature settings, and maybe they want to join a yoga class once in a while, but they certainly don't want to be spammed by everyone else in the building, and they don't want to see that, you know, like in WeWork's app, oh, the internet is down, or I'm trying to hire for this person, I'm going to try and poach you from the company. That's a very different thing. So in your profile, you opt in to be visible or invisible. You opt in to allow other people to message you or not. And you're essentially creating your own personal experience. So maybe going back to the video I missed, but I was told that there was this trailer video promo of Bosch saying, like, live like a Bosch. And I thought it was great because Daniel said earlier, I want to live like myself. And actually, I think that's key to this whole discussion. And we need to put topics like AI and, you know, big tech things out of our mind, because even though, yes, we are innovating tech, as I said before, and I'll say again, tech or AI or machine learning is only an enabler to what we're trying to achieve for the business value, and the people's experience. So if my goal is to have and at District, we measure 3 core things: productivity, well-being, and frictionless experience of the building. So friction means, do I need to wait 10 minutes at the reception to get into my own building because I don't have my access card with me? Or can I just, you know, open the app and get in straight away? So there's pain points along getting in and out of the building, the experience of the building, And then you could expand that to the public realm and the city, but that's sort of step 2 and step 3. And I think GDPR is all about giving the users the choice, and I think it's a great thing that was driven by Europe. We're fully GDPR compliant because we're based in London, but all the buildings we do, we're rolling out to 300 million square feet across Canada, US, and Europe, and we're GDPR compliant no matter where we are because we know it will come in Canada and in America. And I think it's a good thing for the industry.
Maybe if I can add one, I fully agree with you, Vanessa. I think the major part, I personally believe it's very good that we have it and we need it. But I think the point is like turning that into reality is very important, that you start working with your workers' council from the first moment. Again, it starts with the use case. Right? And we've done some tests in some buildings where we have tried to actually make people opt in into geofencing. People did not opt in, right? Only 7% of people, because they were afraid. So I think I can just say whenever you work with companies like this, to a company Siemens or whomever actually to deploy these platforms to fundamentally change how people work, you're anyhow benefit orientated, but involve your workers' council, involve a selection of people to understand it, right? Because GDPR in itself is also not actually solving it, right? That is just a regulation, what is good, so that actually people don't misuse it. But then it's your responsibility, right, as a smart building planner, to really take these use cases one step further. And at the end, Google tracks us today much more than anything else, right? Has anybody really had a harm from that? Probably not. But there is a big upside, and that's the same in buildings. We want to use it responsible, that's important, and we want to have a benefit, and that controls us. And at the end, I think, and that's my last point that is most important, apps and smart buildings, they're not built to represent just a smart building. They are meant for a purpose, to make more people work more enjoyable in a building and at the end create more value. And that is very important, and that's why that story needs to start with it. And that's that fundamental shift, I think, that needs to get into our minds.
Yeah, and maybe to add, I'd like to say one last thing, which I always say. We believe it's 100% about removing friction. So a smart building is not smart if I connect every single IP of each light bulb and I have a floor plan where I need to like zoom in on a tiny phone and I need to find myself and then click 10 times to find the lights, like to turn them on or off. Or I can click once on the light switch, which is 1 step versus 10. So then you've just spent 200 grand on connecting all the lights and nobody's using it. What's the point of that? And better not to do any tech in the first place. You know, allow people to do the light switch on the wall or the lift button. Unless you're removing friction, it's not valuable to build smart building tech. Yeah. And that's about user experience design, so it's about really rolling out.
Yeah, queue up your questions. We're going to get to that next.
In the design of a smart building, we always divide it, I think, in 3 pieces. That's observation, that's analysis, and that's control. For example, you can observe that a person is entering the building, but that's a person. But the analysis, much more shown, is entering the building. And the next part is the control, and your control in the building. And if you try to separate it in 3 divisions, in the first stage, it's much more anonymous. So you see a pattern of the person. In the second one, if you have a reason to connect a profile of a behavior of a person to a person, there is a need for that. And if you do it in that strict way, I think you can work pretty good with the GDPR, but be very strict in separating 3 things.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? I can certainly keep going if you do not. Anyone? Yes, sir. Over here.
Rodolphe Dolgezon from Forensics. Economic recessions are very painful and annoying things, but they do focus the mind. And there's increasing discussion in economic circles, when's the next big one due? And surely that will affect the kind of mix of barriers and incentives that all the companies you're working with are feeling. What's your take on how that might change the agenda over the next few years, if and when it comes?
The threat of recession is what you're talking about, or downturns? Yeah.
I'll take it. So I truly believe it will, the next downturn will just make flexibility more of a standard. So companies are already today taking less square foot and more shared space, which makes them more adaptable to a downturn. So you can get rid of a space if you need to, and you don't need to, you have less of a rent asset on your P&L, on your balance sheet. So in terms of smart building tech, the more flexible a building can be to people's needs, the better. You'll probably see some owners spend less money in the next downturn. That's less interesting for me because I think there's about a couple % of new commercial building stock versus legacy buildings. So we're much more interested in seeing, can we take a building that was 30 years old and very, very cost effectively, through our platform, which costs nothing in comparison, like say 20 grand, can you connect the entire experience of the asset and make it a more productive workplace? No matter what's in the building already, whatever tech is in there, can we integrate with it? And that's much more, I think, upgrading existing retrofitting buildings versus building new buildings is a huge topic that maybe we haven't talked about yet, but will become more and more important.
I think it will influence in two ways because it still is a heavy investment. It's truly making an intelligent building. And to some companies, it's spending the money now versus the benefits you get. But once you get the productivity aspect into it, there's the obvious reasons, of course, in energy efficiency, you always save some money, but you need to use money first. But the productivity aspect, I think will drive that you will, if you think that into the building, have a higher productivity. You eventually get faster speed to market, more innovation. So investing in a smart building that supports that will make you more competitive. So in the crisis, you will be better off, really. So, but there is always this discussion of using money now versus the benefits. Yeah.
Okay. If I can build on it, I think that the major change, what I think, is how do you define actually the value of the building? Right? And the value of the building is not necessarily the square meters and the cost per square meter. I think that's fundamentally changing. It's the number of people that can actually work in the building. So if you are able, instead of before having 500 people, you can have now 1,500 people working on the same square meters, then this will enable actually the whole thing as a service. So what I truly believe in the future, and at least what we are going for as a company, is not only to provide that platform on top, but also to more and more actually provide the infrastructure as a service. And then basically, and this one, it becomes a variable cost, it becomes an OpEx transition actually into operational cost. And I think that's that interesting thing that I will expect to happen in the downturn. The second big thing is what you see, and that was what I was relating to in what happened in the city of London, or globally actually, that trend of lower lease cycles. Now, traditionally our industry is of course very much split between who builds the building, the investor, and so forth, right? And that doesn't happen on the car factory. That's one company, right? It's the owner of the building, runs it. That's why I think we have been seeing huge increases of efficiency over the last 20 years, of every year between 5 and 10%, right? That has been amazing. That did not happen in building, but now because actually lease cycles are much shorter, I think the investor into the building will invest into the tenant fit out. Right? So it's one side, either the investor or it will be outsourced to a second company, and then the whole infrastructure will come as a service based on the people that are in the building and the number. And then it will become much more like an IT focus. As you see today, you're looking at what is workplace costing me in IT. And it's not about the square meters of a building. And that transition, I think we will start seeing happening massively. And that's actually, I mean, if you really look at it, that's what we work with, right? I mean, that's why they have arbitrage margins. But you will see it now more integrated.
Excellent. Well, it looks like we are just about out of our time. I would encourage you, we'll all hang around a little bit afterwards, certainly networking and upfront if you have some further questions. Want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you very much to my panel. Great panel to be a part of. Certainly wish them a round of applause from everyone.